On the day of the zombie outbreak, my parents kicked me out of the house. The reason was that my brother's girlfriend came to stay, and the food my family stocked up on was only enough for 4 people for a year. My sister-in-law also told me to get lost quickly. Who told you to be so old and still not have a partner? Unlike me, I have a man to support me. They didn't know that I had just wanted to tell them that I accidentally bound to a future shopping system where I could use joy beans to buy all kinds of supplies. I excitedly rushed into the house, set down the 2 bags of rice I was carrying, and just as I was about to speak, my mom and dad blocked me from both sides. Shu ran, "Can we still grab supplies outside? I saw on the news that the supermarkets are all packed and have been emptied." I told them, "Yes, they have indeed been cleared out. It's best if we don't go out anymore. There are many people on the road armed and specifically robbing." My mom glanced at the supplies piled up in half of the living room and said worriedly, "But these things are only enough for 4 people to eat for a year, and we have to make them last." "It's okay, Mom, the country will definitely launch a rescue operation in a year. Besides..." Before I could finish my sentence, my dad suddenly pushed me hard. I was already standing at the door, and this push sent me straight outside. I looked over in confusion, only to meet the gloating gaze of my brother Chintao's girlfriend, Lu Qin. She was holding Chintao's arm as they just walked out of the room, standing behind my parents with a smug smile. My dad glanced back and then turned to me seriously, saying, "Tao Tao's girlfriend is here, and they are getting married. We can't just drive her away, can we? So, you should leave." My mom chimed in, "That's right. You know how hard it was for your brother to find a partner. The 4 of us will be a family in the future. If there were enough food for 5 people, I definitely wouldn't kick you out, but right now, it's not enough, so don't blame me, blame yourself for not bringing back more in the first place." I stared at them in disbelief, not expecting that the family I had treated with all my heart would turn against me like this. When the news reported that a certain city in another province had unusual infected patients, I immediately felt something was wrong and used all my savings from years of work to buy a large amount of supplies to take home. Later, more and more people became infected, and everyone began to panic and rush to buy supplies. I asked them to come with me, but my parents declined, saying they were too old and had trouble walking. I said, "Then Qintao can go with me." My mom stood in front of my brother and pushed me hard, saying, "How can your skinny brother compete with others? Didn't you practice sports at school? You're tall and strong. Can't you just go and grab more by yourself?" So, all the supplies in this half of the room were brought back by me alone. But now, they want to kick me out of the house. In a situation where zombies have already appeared in the city, they won't even give me a place to hide. "Mom, even if you want to take in LV Chin, you don't have to kick me out. Can't we all save a little at a time like this? Kicking me out is just pushing me to my death, isn't it?" LV Chin stepped forward at this moment and sneered, "Sister, how can you say that about uncle and aunt, who told you that at 30 you still can't find a partner? Otherwise, you could be seeking refuge at your man's place right now." Chen Tao also said, "Sister, if I tell you to get lost, you should hurry up and leave. Don't force me to take action. I was hoping you would get married and bring back a dowry. That's why I supported you. Now that things are like this, you're no longer useful. So be smart and get out of here." I stared at the 4 people eyeing me like a hawk. My heart felt as if it had been frozen, chilling me to the bone. "All right, don't say you regret it later." The response I got was the door being slammed shut with force. I crouched in the hallway, summoning the shopping system in my mind. This is a page connecting to a future shopping website, quite similar to the current online marketplaces. But the items sold here are unprecedented and unheard of, not to mention various pocket-sized high-performance weapons, stealth drones, advanced robots, and even mobile fortresses available for purchase, let alone the dazzling array of food and daily necessities. Everything you could possibly need is available, although the prices listed are not cheap. The payment currency used is joy beans. Playing Do Di Zhu has been my favorite pastime for these years. I have a whopping 24 billion happiness beans in my account, enough to buy everything on the shopping website. This shopping system just popped up when I was out grabbing supplies. I jumped into it after being hit on the head by a muscular guy while trying to snatch a bag of rice from him. At first, I thought it was a hallucination caused by the blow to my head, It wasn't until I ran out of the large supermarket and was on my way home that I realized that as soon as I thought about shopping, the page of this shopping website would automatically pop up for me to choose from. I was extremely excited and couldn't wait to rush home to tell my parents and younger brother, but what awaited me was abandonment. Well, I have known for years that my parents favored boys over girls, and I have suffered greatly because of it, but the education I received from childhood taught me to endure, to be grateful, to be filial, and to be loving. I forced myself to become a saint. Even though I knew that the only one suffering was me, now it's good, they have severed the bond of kinship with their own hands, and I no longer owe them anything. I can finally live my own happy life. Thinking of this, I glanced at the door behind me and walked away without looking back. I purchased the mobile fortress priced at 70 million joy coins and set it up on the rooftop of this building. Mainly, I am currently unclear about the specific situation outside, so it's best not to wander around casually. Of course, I also want to see what kind of good outcome those 4 people will have after driving me away. The color of the mobile fortress can be chosen freely. If you check none, it will become transparent. I can see outside from inside, but those outside cannot see inside. Its area is about more than 200 square meters, and it is fully equipped with furniture and appliances, much more advanced than now. All can be controlled intelligently. I bought a robot again, just for 1 million joy beans, to take care of my daily needs as a nanny. It startled me when it appeared in front of me, just like a real person, and incredibly handsome. "Master, would you like me to assist you with your bath now?" I waved my hands to refuse, and pinched my thigh hard. Fortunately, it hurt a lot. I almost thought I was dreaming. These days are truly more beautiful than heaven, and so, I made my home on the rooftop. My biggest worry every day is figuring out how to use the new things I bought. That night, after finally understanding how to control the invisible drone and sending it out, I discovered that a few zombies had already appeared downstairs in our community. Fortunately, their combat ability isn't too strong. They haven't even damaged the iron door in the hallway, just wandering aimlessly around the community. But with them blocking the entrance downstairs, the people inside the building can no longer go out to search for supplies. It has been a month since I was kicked out of my home. Water, electricity, and internet have been cut off for half a month now, and for everyone, survival supplies are the most important and the most scarce. If some people do not have enough supplies at home, they might resort to stealing from others in the building to survive. At that moment, I suddenly caught a whiff of an incredibly fragrant braised pork smell. I hurriedly asked the nanny, "Xiao Shuai, is the braised pork made today?" He smiled gently and replied, "Tonight's late-night snack is 4 ways of cooking king crab. Would the master like to have braised pork? Xiao Shuai will make it right away." I was stunned. It wasn't the aroma from the fortress, so whose house downstairs was making braised pork in this situation? Who is foolish enough to risk their life? Are they deliberately flaunting their supplies? After all, nowadays everyone tries to skip a meal if they can. Except for people like me, most won't eat late-night snacks. I had the drone search from below to see which idiot it was. Most families have drawn their curtains, making it impossible to see inside. It wasn't until the drone flew to the 7th floor, outside my former home, that I realized the idiot was my brother's girlfriend, LV Chin. At this moment, she was still unaware that several burly figures had appeared in the hallway, slowly making their way to the 7th floor. The aroma of braised pork grew stronger, and the zombies downstairs began to stir as they caught the scent of meat. They slowly gathered together, desperately pounding on the door of our building. The door, which had been quite sturdy, began to tremble under such an assault. I saw several heads cautiously peeking out from the windows of several houses through the drone's camera, looking down with fear and trepidation. Meanwhile, the braised pork was just finished at LV Chin's place. Chen Tao, drawn by the aroma, came to the kitchen, picked up a piece of meat and stuffed it into his mouth, then asked, "Why did you only make this little bit? It's not even enough to get stuck in my teeth. How will Mom and Dad eat?" LV Chin pouted and rushed over to block the door crack again, huffily saying, "Be careful, or your parents will find out." She turned back, picked up a bowl, stuffed a piece of meat for herself, and then served a piece to Chen Tao. "They're so old, what do they eat at home every day? Besides, with your mom's personality, she wouldn't even let us eat this meat that's about to go bad." She says we need to be careful and cautious. If she finds out I secretly cooked it, she would definitely beat me up. I just don't understand. What do I need to be careful about eating a piece of meat in my own home? I think she just doesn't want to give it to me on purpose. She touched Qintao's face again and complained, I could accept it if she just didn't want to give me any. After all, everyone says the relationship between mothers-in-law and daughters-in-law is the hardest to manage, but she won't even let you, her own son, have any. Look at you. You've lost so much weight in just a few days. Lu Qingjiao shyly twisted her body and said, I have no strength left tonight. Qintao was persuaded by her, and after stuffing his mouth with 2 pieces of meat, he leaned in and kissed her hard on the face with his greasy lips. All right, if you dare to complain about me, just wait for me tonight. The two of them were eating meat and flirting with each other, completely unaware that several burly men had already confirmed the aroma in the hallway and were making their way to their door. It was already past 9 in the evening, the moon was bright and the stars sparse, and the scene in the kitchen was still clearly visible. I couldn't bear to watch this disgusting scene any longer, so I directed the drone to the window of my parents' room, wanting to see what they were up to. Especially since they still hadn't noticed the foolish act their idiot daughter-in-law had committed. The window was completely blocked by thick curtains, making it impossible to see inside, and it was very quiet. I could only hear the intermittent sounds of my dad snoring. It seems this old couple had nothing to do and went to bed early. No wonder LV Chin dared to secretly cook braised pork. Just then, there was a sudden loud banging on the door from outside. The noise was so great that I could hear it clearly even from the rooftop without needing the drone. Xiao Shuai also put down what he was cooking at the sound and immediately stood in front of me, fully armed. I looked at his dazzling advanced combat suit and once again marveled at how worth it those 1 million joy beans were. His boyfriend power was off the charts. If I buy a few more, I could assemble a future police combat team, each one over 6 feet tall, stunningly good-looking, and with top-notch combat skills. In this apocalypse, wouldn't I just be able to relax? After making some plans, I immediately focused my attention back downstairs. As the banging on the door had stopped, replaced by a chorus of screams, I maneuvered the invisible drone through the kitchen window into the living room, and because there was no light, I could only see a few shadowy figures standing in the pitch darkness. It was Xiao Shuai who reminded me that this drone not only could be invisible but also had night vision capabilities. Under his command, I activated it, and immediately saw a scene of devastation. By this time, my parents had already been awakened and were disheveled, standing in front of the men who were stealing things, trying to block them from taking anything. Damn it, you are breaking and entering. This is against the law. One of the men let out a sneer. And then the group exchanged glances before bursting into loud laughter. The night vision footage from the drone is very clear. I can recognize that these men are the fitness coach from 1302, the delivery guy from 303, the live streamer from 602, and an employee from a foreign company in 1502. The foreign company employee and the delivery guy both live here with their families, while the fitness coach and the streamer are both single, the delivery man said first. My wife and kids are going to starve to death. I can't even survive, and I'm still worried about whether this is illegal. The fitness coach chimed in. Right now, it's all about who can live longer. I won't last until the country comes to rescue us, so every extra day I live is an extra day I earn. The streamer was more direct, laughable. By then you'll all be dead. Who will stand up to accuse us? My dad immediately shrank back, stepping behind my mom, trembling as he asked, do you still want to kill? The foreign company employee had shed their previous image of being kind and honest, revealing a sinister smile. As long as you all behave, we don't want to be too ruthless right now. It's your own fault for being so fond of showing off. It's late at night and you dare to cook braised pork. Now that the water and electricity are cut off, it shows that you not only have ingredients but also plenty of living energy. If we don't rob you, who should we rob? My mother suddenly reacted, turning around to glare fiercely at Lu Qin, who was hiding behind Qintao, her gaze as if she wanted to tear her to pieces. Lu Qin hurriedly explained, Mom, I didn't mean to. Are they dogs? Can they really smell this? My mom was too lazy to listen to her excuses, let out a shout, and rushed over, slapping her across the face. After taking a couple of hits, Lu Qin got angry and grabbed my mom's hair. starting to fight back. The two of them were having a great time. Chen Tao had already run over to my dad's side early on. The two big men didn't dare to stop those who were moving things and just huddled in the corner. Looking around anxiously, Chen Tao asked my dad, "Dad, if these people take everything, what are we going to eat later?" My dad looked at the people grabbing things, then at the fighting Lu Qin and my mom, and sighed, "Why are you fighting among yourselves? Use that energy to fight those people." Then he glanced at the smashed door and regretted, "If only your sister had said we should replace it with a sturdier door back then, your mom wouldn't have been so stingy with that little money. Just look at it now." Chen Tao curled his lip. "Can't my sister just take out her own money?" I always felt like she was hiding something, leaving with such confidence, as if she wasn't worried at all. My dad thought for a moment and then nodded. "We should have kept her back then. Her fighting ability could match those people. At worst, we could save a meal for her every day. She wouldn't starve." Hearing this, I couldn't be bothered to look any further. My already chilly heart had turned to granite. Now I truly thanked them for revealing their true colors at that time. From the moment they kicked me out of the house, their lives were no longer my concern. After eating the king crab prepared by Xiao Shuai in 4 different ways, I purchased a few robots in the shopping system. They are all so handsome, just looking at them is pleasing to the eye. And the key is that they can cosplay. Whatever outfit I want them to wear, I can change it instantly just by thinking about it. They spread out. One to run a bath for me, one to give me a massage, one to warm milk for me, and the remaining handsome guy went to warm my bed. In the bathtub, the second handsome guy added bath balls purchased from the shopping system. 100 joy beans can buy a big bag, along with various whitening and skin nourishing effects. After I lay in the bathtub and finished my hot milk, I was feeling a bit drowsy when suddenly a loud crash came from downstairs. Without a doubt, at a time like this, the only place that would dare make such a loud noise is my former home. I opened the drone's camera and, sure enough, it was them. They were trying to reattach the door that had been kicked in, but the door had already been smashed out of shape by those robbers, and tape couldn't hold it. With a loud crash, it fell to the ground again. I had the drone scan downstairs, and sure enough, the few zombies that had finally scattered were starting to surround our building again. Banging against the rickety door below, my mother was still sitting on the ground, wailing, "What kind of sin have I committed? Why didn't I kick this wretched person out back then? Everything is gone, everything." Lu Qin was not someone who would suffer in silence. She put her hands on her hips and spat on the ground. "How can you blame me? Why don't you blame those who came to steal things? Besides, you were the ones who called me here in the first place, saying that it would be great if I could get pregnant with a grandson for the Qin family while living with Chen Tao. You all said there was enough food at home, that you would provide me with good meals, and then what? You even hide a piece of meat from me. Of course, I have to cook it myself." My mom was so angry that she clutched her chest. You shameless person, how dare you say that? Was I unwilling to give you meat? Didn't I cook meat for you half a month ago? I already told you that many people don't have enough supplies now. Chen Tao's sister warned me before that when the situation gets serious, we should try to eat those ingredients that don't have much flavor, and keep the noise down at home to avoid attracting those with ill intentions who might discover we have food stored. Who would have thought that you, this shameless person, would be so greedy for a taste of meat? My dad looked at the mess all around and broke down. How are we going to survive as a family now? This is the apocalypse. How can there be such a foolish person like you? Chen Tao stood silently to the side, watching his parents scold LV Qin, as if he had nothing to do with it at all. Seeing his pathetic appearance, my mind was filled with memories of him as a child. When he broke something as a child, he would just stand there without saying a word. When our parents asked him, he wouldn't respond, and even when they blamed me, he still acted as if it had nothing to do with him. I don't know how many times I've taken the blame for him since I was young. Although this matter was done by Lu Qin, does he not bear any responsibility? Without his tacit approval, Lu Qin wouldn't have been so bold, especially since he ate more of that meat than she did. Now he has started to hide away beautifully again. It's truly disgusting. Lu Qin looked at him, but he avoided her gaze and said nothing. She understood and gave a bitter smile, asking, "So what do you want? Are you going to let me go now?" In an instant, Mom and Dad fell silent as well, and the scene was filled with silence. the zombies downstairs were still banging against the door with force, the bang-bang sound making one feel anxious, but no one said a word to keep her. LV Chin smiled and said something she had said before leaving. "All right, don't regret it." My parents and Chintao seemed to recall something, their faces turning unusually pale. My mom gritted her teeth and said, "Just get lost." Lu Qin stepped out the door without looking back. At that moment, Chintao was reluctant to let her go, raising his head to gaze longingly at her back, just as he was about to reach out and call her. My mom slapped his hand back down. Chintao muttered discontentedly, "Mom, our family has nothing left now. What difference does it make whether Lu Qin stays or goes?" My mom shot him a fierce glare, then ran to the front door to take a look. After seeing that Lu Qin had already disappeared, she quietly returned, pulling my dad and Chintao back to their own room. Fortunately, the drone had already flown in before the door closed. My mom lowered her voice and told my dad and Chintao, "I'm just afraid of this situation, so every time your sister brought things home, I secretly hid them here in the panel." She opened the wardrobe, removed a layer of wood, and revealed a square space filled with various self-heating foods, canned goods, bottled water, and so on. My mom turned back proudly, and as she expected, saw the astonished faces of my dad and Chintao. "At that time, I was afraid of your sister. What if all the food outside was gone and the country hadn't come to rescue us? At least we could hide in here and eat. I never expected it would come in handy even more now." My dad excitedly hugged my mom and gave her a hard kiss on the cheek. The three of them were overjoyed, unaware that LV Chin was not going downstairs to die, but was instead heading upstairs. She pulled her collar down low and knocked on the door of the fitness coach's house. "As long as you give me something to eat, you can do whatever you want." Lu Qin leaned against the fitness coach, who did not push him away but smiled and said, "Do you know how important a bite to eat is in this situation? Without me, you wouldn't be able to grab so many things, which means I am your lucky star. Moreover, you train so hard and must have quite a demand, but there's no place for you to find women right now. What I said about food is just to survive, to see the fate of that family, as a weak woman. I am not someone you can easily manipulate. This deal will definitely not be a loss for you." The fitness coach chuckled and pulled Lu Qin into his embrace. "All right, darling, let me taste the flavor first." After that, the building seemed to return to peace. Mom and Dad, along with Chintao, were very cautious this time, as their supplies were not particularly abundant, enough at most for the three of them to eat for a few months, so they only ate one meal a day. Maintaining the basic necessities for survival, most of the food consisted of canned goods and biscuits, which had little flavor. They didn't dare to touch the fragrant self-heating rice and self-heating hot pot. The three of them were huddled in Mom and Dad's room with weapons, barricading the door with various items from the vanity. But this peace did not last long. Just half a month later, people began to search for supplies in the building. These people were almost driven mad by hunger. Their aggression levels were off the charts, and they first set their sights on my home, because we did not have the sturdiest door, although the noise that night was very loud, and the whole building could hear it clearly. Logically, no one should have guessed that my mother had secretly hidden some food, but people have always been bullies who pick on the weak, so even if they come up empty-handed, those people will still make a trip first. And only when there's no other option will they challenge those who are stronger. After searching the house thoroughly and finding nothing, they quickly discovered the tightly shut bedroom door. Then the sound of frantic banging on the door erupted. Fortunately, the makeup table was heavy enough to block it, but it wouldn't hold for long if they kept banging. My parents were in a panic, and Chintao was pressed tightly against the window, with two large bags strapped to him. Peering outside to look for an escape route, my dad's hand trembled as he held the knife, urging Chintao, "Did you find it? Did you find it? I remember there was an illegal terrace built on the 5th floor downstairs. Your mom even complained to the property management about it." My mom echoed, "Right. Try tying the rope to the bed leg and climbing down." Chintao, however, was staring at the zombies slowly gathering downstairs due to the increasingly loud noises coming from the building. His legs trembling. What if the rope breaks? "Dad, Mom, I can't do it. And why do I have to go first? Are you trying to use me as a test subject? If I die, you'll just find another way out, right?" My dad and mom were completely speechless after Qintao's series of rhetorical questions. You unfilial child, how dare you say such things? Your mother and I did all this just to let you escape first. If those people outside break in, we can still hold them off for a while. And yet you think this way about us. Qintao, however, completely refused to listen and shouted loudly, "Stop lying to me. When my sister was here, all these dangerous things were done by her first. Now that she's gone, it's my turn, right? It's really eye-opening to see how selfish you can be as parents." My mom was so angry that she gasped for breath, tears streaming down her face. "How can you say that about us? In all these years, when have we not been on your side, thinking of you? If your sister were here, she would naturally take on the dangerous tasks first, and only when it was safe would it be your turn. But now she isn't here, and the situation is so urgent that these people are about to break in. Perhaps there won't even be a second person to climb down. How can you not understand the feelings of your dad and me at all?" Qintao was stubborn and refused to move at all. Seeing this scene made me laugh. They thought their preference for sons over daughters would touch their son, but little did they know, it only planted an image of irresponsible parents in his heart. Normally, it was fine to have comparisons, but now, not only was there no comparison, the situation was extremely critical, and the uncertainty buried deep in his heart surged forth, causing him to waver. At that moment, the door to the room was slammed hard, causing the vanity to be pushed open slightly. My dad hurriedly pushed against the vanity to push it back, but when he turned around, he found that my mom was gone. She darted to the windowsill, quickly fastening the escape rope I had bought to the bed leg, and then said to Qintao, "Son, if you're worried, I'll go down first to give it a try." Qintao was completely stunned, but my mom didn't pay attention to his reaction and quickly climbed up to the windowsill to descend. It was the first time I realized that my mom, who was over 60, could be so agile. She was a completely different person from the one who used to complain about leg pain and limited mobility, asking me to buy her a massage chair. Of course, I couldn't let her escape so easily. Just as I was about to operate the drone to cut her rope, the rope snapped on its own before I could. My mother screamed as she fell heavily from the 6th floor, her flesh and blood splattering everywhere in an instant. She gasped for breath with her mouth open like a stranded fish, her eyes fixed on the direction of the 7th floor, filled with confusion and hatred. In the next moment, before she could take her last breath, the zombies downstairs surged up and completely tore her to pieces. The bloody scene made me gag uncontrollably, and it was only after Xiao Shui sprayed me with a calming fragrance that I finally managed to recover. I repositioned the camera towards the 7th floor window, only to realize that the rope had been cut by my dad. At this moment, Qintao was frantically questioning my dad. "Dad, are you crazy? Why did you kill Mom?" My dad, however, laughed coldly and cursed, "You think you can escape and leave me to die? Dream on." It was then that I noticed the door to the room behind my dad had long been smashed open, and a group of people wielding various weapons were grinning menacingly as they approached them. If my mom and dad had both resisted at the door together, they might have held on for a while, but since my mom fled at the last moment, only my dad was left, and he couldn't hold out long enough for the second person to climb down. Moreover, this method of climbing down with a rope inevitably requires the sacrifice of one person, as at least one person must hold the door to buy time for the other two. My dad must think that this person should be my mom, but he didn't expect that my mom would be even more ruthless, abandoning her own son just to save herself, seeing that if he held out to the end, it would only result in my mom and Qintao surviving. He simply decided to let everyone die together. This is the choice made by selfish people. At that moment, a head poked out from the window of 1302, clapping and laughing. "Good riddance, the old hag died first, LV Chin," Qintao exclaimed in surprise, sticking his head out to call. LV Chin withdrew her gaze from looking downstairs and turned her attention to Qintao. A cold smile appeared at the corner of her mouth, yet her tone was extremely gentle. "Qintao, do you want me to help you?" My dad grabbed Qintao, stopping him from pulling the rope that was hanging outside. "Son, don't believe him." At that moment, Qintao was incredibly strong, pushing him into the arms of the group rushing over, watching helplessly as several sharp knives plunged into my dad's chest and abdomen, blood spilling everywhere. Taking advantage of the moment, he suddenly jumped out and grabbed the rope to climb up. Lu Qin didn't deceive him. In fact, when the fitness coach saw the 2 bags of supplies hanging from him, he lent a hand, tightly pulling the rope to help him up. Chen Tao's face revealed a hopeful smile, but I covered my head. Unable to bear to look any longer, I completely couldn't understand his thought process. Just now, he was terrified climbing down 2 floors, but now he isn't afraid at all climbing up 5 floors. Even in a critical situation, he couldn't believe that his father, who had just killed his own mother, could be trusted. Yet how naive must he be to believe in his ex-girlfriend whom he had abandoned not long ago? Not to mention, this ex-girlfriend is now living in someone else's home. However, the reason why oddballs can become oddballs is that they can do things that normal people wouldn't dare to do. I didn't intervene any further because I realized that even if I did nothing, they were constantly seeking their own demise. Evil people have their own way of dealing with each other. With the help of the fitness coach, Chen Tao quickly climbed to the 13th floor. Lu Qin did not cut the rope when he was about to arrive, letting him fall from hope into despair. Instead, she sincerely joined the fitness coach in pulling Chen Tao in through the window. The people looting on the 7th floor searched the room and then realized that all the supplies had been taken away by Chen Tao. One by one, they rushed to the window and shouted towards the 13th floor. My dad lay in a pool of blood, his eyes fixed on the direction of the window, just like my mom before him, unable to close his eyes even in death. Just as I was about to control the drone to see how Lu Qin would deal with Chen Tao on the 13th floor, Xiao Shui No, too suddenly urged me to look downstairs. It was then that I noticed the zombies downstairs had already finished their meal. After they had feasted on fresh blood and flesh, each of them was incredibly excited, crashing against the door of our building like mad. That door, which had long been on the verge of collapse, was completely destroyed after just 2 or 3 impacts. And the zombies swarmed in like a tide, but that was not the most terrifying part. The zombies have an extremely keen sense of smell, and after detecting the scent, zombies from all directions in the city began to rapidly converge on our neighborhood. In the distance, I could see a mass of zombies, their bodies stiff but moving quickly towards me. Even I felt a wave of goosebumps at the sight of such a terrifying scene. It wasn't that I was worried about my own safety, but the visual impact was simply too overwhelming. Among those still searching on the 7th floor, some also saw this scene through the window and screamed as they ran back home. After all, the doors here had been smashed, and as soon as the zombies arrived, they could tear them to shreds, but they underestimated the speed of the zombies. Before they could even reach the door, they were blocked by zombies that had already caught the scent of human flesh. In the next second, the entire house was filled with flying limbs, and blood was everywhere. Those people didn't even have time to scream before they completely became the zombies' feast. Even my father's corpse ultimately couldn't escape, being completely devoured. However, aside from the people on the 7th floor who had no shelter, the other residents of this building have not suffered any damage for the time being. From my observations during this period, the attack power of the zombies should still be lower than that of the 4 people who broke in that day. First, the zombies have no weapons, and second, the zombies at this time should not have evolved yet. It has only been 3 months since the outbreak of the zombies, and many of them have not consumed much flesh and blood, let alone the survival of the fittest among their kind, so they are just a bit stronger than when they were human, and their movement speed is slightly faster. If they were originally weaker humans, they probably couldn't even defeat a stronger person now. However, I have seen information that zombies will evolve, and after some time, they may become even more powerful. The densely packed zombies downstairs seemed to declare that a survival law among the undead would unfold here. The other residents in the building also seemed to have noticed this, gradually calming down from their panic. In room 1302, the previously tense Lu Qin and the fitness coach also relaxed their minds at this moment. After blocking the door with heavy objects like the sofa, the fitness coach slumped down onto the carpet. Lu Qin was staring fiercely at the bound Chen Tao, her eyes filled with hatred so intense it seemed it could drip out. The fitness coach glanced at her and warned, "I told you before, just throw him down to feed the zombies, but you insisted otherwise. I'll tell you. However you want to torture him is your business, but don't make too much noise or cause a bloody mess, or I'll throw you down to feed the zombies too." Lu Qin immediately composed herself and said, "Don't worry, I just want to starve him." After all, a day as husband and wife brings 100 days of grace. I'm not that heartless, the fitness coach snorted coldly, then went to his room, locked the door, ate something, and went to sleep. At that moment, LV Chin walked up to Chin Tao and, in the face of his terrified gaze, untied the ropes that bound him. Chin Tao was stunned, and as LV Chin sobbed and threw herself into his arms, she said, "Are you blaming me for finding another man? But I just want to live, and I want you to live too. So you tied me up not to starve me, but to..." Chin Tao glanced warily at the locked door and lowered his voice even more to ask, "So what do we do now?" Lu Qin also followed his gaze and looked towards the door, a strange light flashing in her eyes. "Of course, it's him who dies, and we survive." Chin Tao held her tightly. "All right." Soon it was evening, and the zombies began to attack each other as they couldn't find food. The noise woke the fitness coach. After eating something and drinking some water inside the room, he opened the door and walked out. Lu Qin was leaning against the sofa by the door, while Chin Tao remained tied up on the living room floor, lying still. The fitness coach nodded in satisfaction, then took out a pack of biscuits and handed it to Lu Qin. Lu Qin gratefully accepted it and nestled into his embrace. "So, is there any noise outside our door?" Lu Qin stuffed a cookie into her mouth, deliberately crunching loudly. "There's nothing much, just a couple of zombies came to attack for a bit, but after realizing they couldn't break the door, they left." Her voice was also quite loud, and the fitness coach seemed to sense something. Frowning slightly, just as he was about to reprimand Lu Qin, "Didn't I say that everything needs to be quieter now? Zombies have very sensitive hearing. Are you stupid or..." Before he could finish his sentence, a dumbbell came crashing down on his head, blood instantly streaming down his face. He turned back in disbelief, just in time to meet the gaze of Chin Tao, whose hands were trembling but whose eyes were fierce. "You..." The dumbbell struck his forehead again with a bang, and he completely fainted and collapsed to the ground. Just as Chin Tao let out a sigh of relief, LV Chin snatched the dumbbell from his hand and started smashing it against the fitness instructor's head. Chin Tao stopped her, saying, "He's dead, completely dead." LV Chin finally relaxed and spat on the fitness instructor's corpse, saying, "This is what you get for trying to rob us over braised pork, making me end up like this." Lu Qin, "I'm not someone to be trifled with." Chin Tao's nerves, which had just relaxed after hearing her words, immediately tensed up again, and he instinctively took a step back. Lu Qin noticed this, raised her face splattered with blood, and with a sinister smile, swung down at Chin Tao's head. Chin Tao quickly turned to run, but after several days without food, his legs weakened from hunger, and he tripped over his left foot, falling to the ground. If it weren't for Lu Qin covering for him just now, the fitness coach would have thought he was tied up. And it would have been impossible to hit the coach on the head when he wasn't paying attention. Even so, he would still need to hit him a couple more times to knock him out. Although Lu Qin didn't eat much, she was very good at pleasing the fitness coach, and at this moment, she was much stronger than Chin Tao. Soon, Chin Tao fell into a pool of blood just like the fitness coach, and even worse than the coach. His head was unrecognizable from its original shape. Looking at the pool of blood, Lu Qin suddenly burst into mad laughter. "They're all dead, these filthy men, not a single one of them is worth anything. I told you not to regret it. The one who will survive to the end will only be me." Lu Qin, she rushed into the fitness trainer's room, found all the supplies he had hidden, and then picked out her favorite foods to eat. She used a portable stove to boil a pot of water and made a self-heating hot pot to eat. Just when she was feeling pleased with herself, a loud banging sound came from outside, just like the night she cooked braised pork, and it was even louder. She rushed out in a panic, even kicking the self-heating hot pot on the ground, spilling soup everywhere. By the time she reached the door, it had already been completely smashed, and countless zombies were pouring in from outside. The last scene captured by the drone showed zombies rushing towards Lu Qin in a frenzy. I shook my head and said to the little guys, "Fools really never learn." The fitness coach repeatedly warned her that zombies have keen senses of smell and hearing, but she completely ignored it. While everyone else tried to be quiet, she not only made a loud noise but also turned the entire room into a bloody mess. The zombies hadn't eaten for several days and were in a state of mutual slaughter. The smell of blood almost attracted all the zombies rushing here. even with all their strength. This door couldn't withstand the force of so many zombies, fortunately. I managed to retrieve the drone in time, so I didn't have to witness those disgusting scenes. I said to Xiao Shuai, "It seems like the hot pot she just ate was quite delicious." Xiao Shuai gently said, "Master, I will prepare a seafood hot pot for you right away. It will be ready to eat in 30 minutes. Xiao Shuai no. 3 stuffed the freshly peeled grapes into my mouth, and as I chewed, I nodded. "Make me a drink, please. Tonight is perfect for a little indulgence." I looked out at the gray sky beyond the mobile fortress and once again sighed. So, if one doesn't act recklessly, one won't die. Extra, I never expected that I could buy souls in the shopping system, although the price is steep, at 100 million each. I looked at my account and saw I still had 300 billion joy beans, so I waved my hand and bought the souls of my parents, Chen Tao, and LV Qin. I want them to see for themselves what they have lost, otherwise it would be as unsatisfying as the Emperor's new clothes. The next second after placing the order, the 4 of them floated in the air with blank expressions. My mom instinctively wanted to rush over and tear him apart when she saw my dad. My dad charged at Chen Tao, who then rushed at LV Qin, and in the end, the 4 of them floated around but couldn't touch each other before realizing something was wrong. I watched their farce with a smile, opening a bag of chips and munching away. After hearing the noise, they all turned to look at me. My mom exclaimed, "Shu Ran, you're still alive." I stared at them, each with eyes as wide as copper bells, and smiled as I nodded. "Of course I'm alive, but you all are already dead." Only then did they fearfully raise their hands, seeing only transparent bodies. My dad didn't understand. How could this be? I laughed even more joyfully. "Have you forgotten how you died? You were killed by your beloved son, who used you as a shield." My father's face instantly turned as dark as the bottom of a pot. At that moment, LV Qin jealously screamed, This is where you live. How can it be so nice?" My mother chimed in, "That's right. You know how hard your brother worked to find a partner. The 4 of us will be a family in the future. If there were enough food for 5 people, Mom definitely wouldn't kick you out, but now it's not enough, so don't blame Mom. Blame yourself for not bringing back more in the first place." I didn't answer evil this, but instead led them out of the fortress to look outside. Only then did they realize that the apocalypse was still ongoing. And we were even on the rooftop of the building we lived in. I brought them back again, showing them my robot servants, demonstrating my array of advanced weapons, showcasing the operation of my shopping system, and revealing my balance of hundreds of billions. In their astonishment, I smiled and told them, "So, no matter how long the apocalypse lasts, this place will always be a paradise, and on the day you drove me out, you gave up the chance to enjoy this." I picked up a plate of braised pork and handed it to my mother, gently saying, "I originally wanted to tell you not to worry, but I never expected that in the end, you would be done in by a small pot of braised pork. It's truly ridiculous. Look, I can eat as much braised pork as I want here, and no one will find out." My mother couldn't handle such a shock. Her soul went mad. With a casual squeeze, her soul completely dissipated into the air, leaving not a trace behind. My dad and Chen Tao were so scared that they immediately knelt down, begging me not to crush them. Even if it was just their souls, they still wanted to exist. I couldn't be bothered to look at them even once more. I only collected these 400 million joy beans to vent the last bit of my anger. When the malice dissipates, the future will be all bright.